Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Art of the Possible series. I'm Nihali Niyogi, and I am a principal cloud solution architect at Microsoft, focused on advanced networking and security. Today's topic is Arc-enabled VMware AVS private cloud. And with me, I have two of my amazing colleagues, Victor and Husam, who are going to share some valuable insights and do a demo of onboarding. So with that, I will pass it on to you, Victor, to introduce yourself, and Husam next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Victor Sandoval. I'm a principal partner solutions architect focused on Azure VMware Solution and also cloud and networking. Happy to be here, Nihali, again. It's always a pleasure.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Nihali, for having me. Hi, Victor. So my name is Husam Hilal. I'm a partner solution architect. I'm in the partners org at Microsoft, and I focus primarily on VMware migrations into Azure. And been at Microsoft 7 years. Excited to be in this show, Nihali. Thank you for bringing me in. And we're going to have some great time today talking about AVS and the Arc integration.
Awesome. Pleasure to have you both. So yeah, with that, I'll turn it over to you, Husam. I know you have a little presentation planned out, so look forward to that one.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen really quick. Basically, what I'm planning to do here is just to set the stage about what we're going to be covering and talking about today. So the title here, Extending Azure Control Plane with Azure Arc. And let's kind of dive in to see what that really means. So in Azure, the main thing that we always talk about is Azure Resource Manager, or ARM, right? This is the Azure Control Plane. So we have this for grant for the Azure native resources like Azure VMs, Azure SQL, networking, storage, you name it. So this is directly integrated with the Azure Resource Manager. As we can see on the left side, Azure IaaS and PaaS all together. Now, with Azure Arc, what it can do, it can extend that Azure Control Plane and bring the Azure Resource Manager to other environments other than just AVS, just Azure. In this case, we're talking about AVS. That's why I kind of talking about AVS. But the point is how we can make that work is through leveraging Azure Arc. So Azure Arc is a technology that works as a bridge to connect other non-Azure environments with Azure. Again, the example I mentioned is Azure VMware Solution. It could be other cloud providers, VMs running in different locations on Hyper-V, whatsoever, on premises, other cloud hyperscalers. All that can be brought into the Azure control plane through the Azure Arc integrations. And one of the common use cases we see for the Azure Arc is Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, which is, Azure VMware Solution is just an example of that. And also Arc-enabled VMs, Arc-enabled SQL, etc. And from there, let's talk more about the Arc integration with Azure VMware Solution. What's really here important to differentiate two things. Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, that's one layer, and also the Arc-enabled servers, that's another layer. So if we look at this kind of illustration here, you can see this is gray side at the bottom there. This is only Arc-enabled VMware vSphere or Arc-enabled AVS. Technically, they're the same technology. What I mean by that, this is when you connect your VMware vSphere environment to the Azure control plane. So this allows you to kind of discover existing, resources that you have on like vCenter from VMware side of the house. You can enable like VM lifecycle operations like VM's CRUD operations, create, read, update, and delete for those VMs. You can like do things like changing number of CPU cores or changing the amount of the memory that this VMs has or turn them on and off. All that can be done within the Azure APIs and portal and CLI and you name it once you Arc-enable vSphere. And the other benefit to that also, it allows you to install the Arc agent or the management agent at scale. You can just go and select all your VMs and just hit one button. We'll learn about that more today in the demo. And that will just onboard the VMs into the to be integrated with Azure Arc and bring them into the Azure control plane. So this is Arc-enabled VMware vSphere side of the house. And then on top of that, again, we can have the Arc-enabled servers. And this is more the integration that we get for managing what's inside of those VMs. We can do like self-service management for these VMs. We can do like monitoring. We can do protection with Defender for Cloud. We can do a lot of integration that you can actually see at the bottom of this slide here, like Azure Update Manager, Azure Policy. I mentioned Defender for Cloud, Sentinel integration, Azure Monitor, Azure Manage Identity, because keep in mind, this is very important. Once you Arc-enable a VM, it gets an Azure identity, and you can actually use that identity to authenticate to Azure services. So you can, from the VM, authenticate keyless and passwordless to, for example, a storage account or to a key vault in Azure, and you name it. And of course, that's also extending Azure to your VMs, so you can also leverage Microsoft Copilot in Azure as well for your VMs as well to kind of discover what's on there. So this is kind of the couple of slides I wanted to share, Nihali, just to make sure that we understand what is the difference between Arc-enabling VMware vSphere environment or AVS, and what's the Arc-enabled servers. There's a different layers we talk about there. I think from there we can maybe talk about the Arc-enabling AVS right now in more details. I think this will be our next step. Just back to you.
Yeah, Husam, so quick question while you have this slide.
Please.
I think this is very, very interesting because the use cases really grow exponentially at this point, right? Like, not only can we use Arc on-premise, on Azure native, but you can use it on native VMware technologies as well as with AVS. So you can have a single control plane across your entire infrastructure. And I mean, I know we didn't cover about this, but like if you think about it from a multi-cloud architectural perspective, AWS, GCP, Azure, on-prem, all managed through one single management plane, right? Or control plane being Arc, right?
100%. Yes, Victor.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about it like, from a security perspective, if you can control it, you can analyze it and you can monitor it and you can protect it.
Exactly. Right. Even from a management perspective, from deployment perspective, I mean, once you Arc-enable for example, the vSphere environment, imagine that you can deploy VMs on the AVS environment or the vSphere environment using ARM templates or bicep templates. So This is kind of something that you would not think of, but I mean, you would use like, different technologies for that typically, but now you can use the Azure native APIs and tools to do even deployment and management on the other platforms, that's kind of the benefit of extending the Azure control plane outside of Azure.
Yeah. So if I step into, I mean, we all work in the partner organization, right? And if I step into a managed services provider perspective, right? The value add that I can provide to my customers now is exponential as well, because I can potentially offer managed services seamlessly across a multi-cloud environment and also on premises. And then day two is how can I protect it, right? So I think that's very useful for those managed providers, because now you can sell more services to your customers and provide more value add as well.
Yes, that's a very valid point, Victor. Yep.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, thank you guys, appreciate it. Thank you, Husam.
No, of course, yes, this is a good insight, and I think definitely partners can build a lot on top of this, enablement that we allow them to do with Azure Arc integrations.
Awesome. Thanks, Husam. So if you've been following along with us, we typically start with the envisioning, the big picture first. So what you see on my screen is a layered and reusable architecture, and we will be sharing this with you at the end of this recording. You'll see it on my GitHub repo link below. So this is a hybrid cloud architecture, top half being Azure. We have a site-to-site connected branch, a point-to-site connected branch, and a data center. And then we have an AVS SDDC provisioned already. And as you can see, the way to access the vCenter over here is if you have a Jumpbox in Azure, you can route to it, so you can reach the Jumpbox over this express route connection. And the second way to hit the vCenter is using this point-to-site VPN. So be sure that to connect from a point-to-site connected branch to another express route connected branch, which is this AVS is connected using express route, you do need a route server and with the branch to branch toggle enabled. Okay, so this is our high level architecture. And one of the things that I want to call out is that we have two tenants in most scenarios. You will only have one tenant and one subscription. But I do want to explain this because we ran into this in our lab and demos. So we have two tenants. One, we call it the home tenant, where the user will log in using the real user account lives. So user at tenant1.com. And then we also have the tenant where the SDDC is provisioned. Okay, so that's what the host tenant is called. And this is where the user is invited as a guest. Okay, so this is the host tenant, and then this is the home tenant. So we will be authenticating twice in some of our demos. Anything else, Victor, you want to add in our overall architecture from anything we missed here?
No, I think that's a great point that you made, Nahali. Like, as long as you have access to the tenant and routing, this should work.
Right. So this is what, these flows are showing line of sight. And another thing I want to call out is that we have provisioned it in the right region. So be sure to check out that you have a regional support. And another piece that I almost missed, Victor, is that we want to make sure that the DNS resolution works correctly. So in other words, if you were on this Jumpbox, you need to be able to resolve the vCenter and NSX Manager FQDNs. If you are point-to-site connected, be sure that your DNS is set up correctly and you can resolve it. In other words, you want to ensure that these FQDNs, so I've grabbed the ESXi server FQDNs under cluster, as well as the vCenter, the one highlighted in yellow, and the NSX. All of the DNS resolution works correctly. So that's another important point.
Yeah, it just shows that the script that is being used is leveraging FQDNs, it's not leveraging hard-coded IPs.
Exactly right. Yeah. So we'll be showing you two demos. One, the first demo, we will show you from a point-to-site connected user's laptop, and we will have routing, and we will show you that as demo one. It has a lot of troubleshooting baked in. And then in demo two, we have a much more crisp demo. We will be running that demo from a Jumpbox that's in Azure with the line of sight to the vCenter. And if you quickly want to see the full deployment, you can jump to demo 2. And if you want to see both of them together, that's how it looks like. And another thing I want to call out is that the orange demo, the first demo, we will be running from my SDDC. So notice the segments, the IP range is 10.100. And then I will show you my SDDC over here, Nehali SDDC, which is where our demo 1 is. So again, this is demo 1. And at the end of this exercise, after we complete deploying the Arc script, you will see that in the vSphere client and in vCenter, you will have an Arc folder, the one highlighted in yellow. We have a couple of VMs, Ubuntu VM and Win 2025 VM. And on the Azure side, in the resource group, you will see the resource bridge created, the custom location, and after the VMs are onboarded, they will show up over here as well. Next, we'll jump on to demo one. Before we do that, though, we have a deep dive with Husam, starting with prerequisites and design consideration and troubleshooting baked into the demo. And if you want to see a crisp demo, you can fast forward it to the demo 2 chapter. Yeah. So Husam, we already have the SDDC provisioned over here. And I have a couple of networks segments created, just some test segments. A workload segment is the one of interest. I do have an Arc segment created. We can create a new one, or if you want, we can review this one. I do have a couple created over here just to expedite our demo. And then you'll see that I have internet connectivity for VMs within SDDC using this. Okay, so if you want to see, I do have another screen where I can just bring it over here and we can quickly check all of these prereqs and the resource provider. But I do have them all enabled. But we can quickly check it over here just to kind of have it in the recording. So and then here I have a Jumpbox provisioned. Oh, before I go into that, did you want to see anything on the AVS SDDC side?
No, I think you got what we need. The resource providers is very important. Just to make sure these are the ones required for Arc enabling AVS. Now, if we think about Arc enabling the VMs on AVS, we probably have another like a couple more that we probably need to check, but we can do that later. Especially I think for Linux, I think it has some more like other requirements. And beyond that, also the segment, I know that you have created it already, but we don't need to create it. I mean, the script that we will run, it will also create the segment itself.
Yeah, so let's delete that then because I don't want to.
Sure.
Yeah, if it's gonna do it while we are here, we could go ahead and delete it. So just we start from a clean slate here.
Yeah, I like how you can manage networking side of AVS from the Azure portal. Like, it's amazing.
Although Victor would disagree, he likes the NSX manager.
Of course, it provides more capabilities in that, but it's just
yeah, I know it's cool.
It's easy here.
It's nice too. Yeah. So we'll go through the prerequisites one by one. I just wanted to show you the Jumpbox here is a 2025 data center.
Good.
And this is the screen where we are kind of logging in with the Bastion. So you have the NSX manager and vSphere over here. Okay, so then I'll turn it over to you if you want to sort of go over this prerequisites. I'll move the screen as you want me to, and I'll pause where you need me to.
Yeah, thank you, Nihal. So yes, as you said, the very important thing there is the resource providers. And then, of course, we need to make sure AVS has internet connectivity, and I think you already have that through SNAT configurations. Alternatively, like if SNAT is not the option, I mean, we're doing it for simplicity in this demo, but you can also do like default routing or do like other mechanism to make sure you have connectivity through to the internet by routing quad 0, maybe to a firewall or something. But that is definitely required there. And beyond that is, as this list kind of also talks about there, and this prerequisite list is like, okay, we need some internet access from the Jumpbox that you are on. In this case, what they mean by management VM is your Jumpbox, which is down there. Yep. We even emphasize that by mentioning that 2 times in this documentation. Of course, like, what's in support matrix, what's, kind of the versions of VMware or the VMs running on AVS environment can be Arc-enabled. This is different kind of setup for like, or different requirement to see which VMs we can Arc-enable or not. We have, support for various OSs and additions of OSs. So that is something I'm not worried about much about. Outside of that, I think, yeah, I mean, of course, we have to have some access into Azure itself, like having owner or a contributor role, at least to the resource group where we're going to be deploying. Why is that? Because when we Arc-enable, we will deploying some also other Azure resources to the AVS subscription. We will be deploying the resource a bridge on inside of AVS as a VM there, but on Azure portal we will see other resources, like we see like a location, we will see a vCenter resource being created beside also the resource bridge itself. So all these, to be able to create them through the script that we'll be running, we need some access over the resource group where we'll be deploying them. So that's why we need the resource group access or permissions to be owner or at least a contributor there. There's also some nice kind of flexibility there. Like if you have a proxy, you can leverage a proxy to kind of let the traffic go through. This is all now supported in the script. If you have a firewall, this table down there gives you like what kind of endpoints you need to allow to that firewall, like for links like starting with aka.ms or GitHub or some of the raw GitHub user content pages. So all that needs to be whitelisted or allowed through the whatever firewall, if we are using any firewall in between. If not, then we just move on without have to worry much. vSphere center, I mean, or vCenter server requirement, we don't really have to worry about that because in AVS we run vSphere 8 today, and we are beyond that minimum requirement. Let's see, as we can see there. Resource pool, kind of capacity. Yes, of course, we need some capacity because we'll be deploying some VM. So that VM, I think, is at least needs 16 gigabyte of RAM and CPU. So we have to make sure we are not over or like we're not like have limited capacity on the AVS side. I think pretty much that's it. I mean, from Arc-enablement, once we have internet, once we have resource provider, this is the main two things there.
I have a question on this
Yes,
one.
please.
When I first my eyes land on the network bits here, but it says that NSX segment that is static network segment. So when I first read it, I was thinking it shouldn't be connected anywhere, more like an isolated segment. I was trying to interpret this, but looks like it will get created if we don't create it ahead of time, right?
Correct, and it's a segment that doesn't have a DHCP configuration in it. I think that's what we meant by static.
I
It
see.
does not like assign IPs and whatever. That's because it is a Kubernetes cluster and will be assigning static IPs to like certain containers and so forth. So it does its own management inside of the cluster itself.
Ah, got it. Okay.
Yes. Great
And
question.
proxy is not required if we have direct internet access.
It's not. It's just like a kind of a nice add-on or a nice luxury if it's needed, because sometimes you have a customer who wants to proxy certain traffic. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And so is there anything else you want to cover here before we kind of go to the onboard process, or we got it, right? The roles and permissions.
Yeah, so this is actually after we kind of onboard. This is kind of what roles we have in Azure, like control plane, for example. Afterward, we want to give some certain people certain access to the environment. For example, we want to allow people to create like a VM, or some people like to maybe just turn them on and off or just change resources. So what you see there, like, is kind of giving you some of those examples of the roles that are given out of the box in the system, so we can leverage them for kind of basically having granular access to the resources that after we Arc-enable the AVS.
Got it. Yeah, so looks like we're ready for onboarding then.
Correct. So what's very important through the onboarding process for Arc-enabling AVS is a script that we'll be using to run the whole onboarding process. The script is available on GitHub, and it's kind of sometimes hard to find the script location, but if you can see in that onboarding process, there's kind of highlight there, a hyperlink for that location. If you click on it, it will take you to this GitHub page where it has the script. And under assets at the very bottom, we can click on source code that actually will download that script zip file, and it will be having it on the Jumpbox VM or the management VM in which we'll be executing that script. Of course, we have to do some other configurations like like modifying the configuration file and so forth. But that's, another step we'll be doing right now. So I see Nihali already downloaded that file and you also extracted it. So this is good. What I would just do to avoid some of the PowerShell restrictions, if you don't mind, can you go back please to the file that you extracted? Yes. Can you delete it? Delete the folder? Go back one step and delete the folder. Yep. And then right click on the zip file you downloaded. And just go to properties, please, the bottom. And just say unblock at the very end of that dialog. Yes. Yes. So this will avoid some of the issues that you might have through running PowerShell.
Okay.
Yep. So now click yes, good to go. Now you can, if you want to extract it, I usually put it in a temp location, so like it's easier to navigate, but it doesn't really matter. You can keep it as you are here. So you can go forward. Yep, great. And then I think you're going back to the documentation so I can explain the configuration file that we have to, of course, configure before we run the script. So this is kind of the skeleton of it. It's a JSON file. It requires, it has some fields that are very required and some fields are optional. What's very required is the kind of subscription ID, your source group, private cloud name, all that is required. And also we need to kind of give a name for the segment, which is in this case called network for appliance VM. That's actually the segment name. And it can be anything. It can be like whatever name you like. And then network CIDR for that, segment. So we need to kind of carve an IP address block that does not overlap with anything. That's how I would do it, just to avoid any other future problems, and have that IP address there. Everything else beyond that is optional, like appliance credential, that if you want to ever log into that resource bridge appliance that is deployed on AVS. Proxy, if you are really going to do proxy implementation in this environment, and same for the management as well. So all this is optional. That's required is the very on top. And actually, Nihali, if you go a little bit to the bottom of, like you just scroll a bit down. Yeah, for this is an example of populated one. So we can, what I do sometimes is just say copy from here and move on, because it's easier to kind of have some of the fields populated. I don't know if that makes a difference. Doesn't really, but
these are optional for us, right?
Yeah, we will remove them. We don't need them. Yes.
Okay, so you can completely remove the full sections, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So let's grab that. And then we will go into our, so I do have we can paste this here, and then we can touch up the subscription and the resource ID if you want.
Yeah, if you have already the information from an older execution, we can just copy those in, like sure. the subscription ID, the source group, all that stuff.
The one question I have here, I picked the resource group as the resource group of the SDDC, and I wasn't sure if it needed something on the Azure side. So in other words, is there any bits that gets installed for Arc on the Azure side?
Correct. So you did correct, choose the right thing. You need the resource group of AVS. Mm-hmm. And you need the name of the AVS resource itself, the one that you have there, Nihali SDDC. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And once we are done, we will see here 3 more resources being added.
Okay.
A location resource, which is like your AVS location, a resource bridge resource, and also a vCenter resource that will be shown up here once we're done with the onboarding.
Got it. Yeah. So this bracket is this, and this bracket goes with this. Okay.
I love how you check it. Yes. Makes sense.
And then we can save this, or?
So let's copy the content of it, so we can keep it easier.
Okay, yeah, it's right here, yeah.
Okay, and then if you go back where you extracted the file on the downloads folder, and then just change kind of the filter there, because there's another file we don't see it. Just say all files. Yep, and open the config AVS JSON. Yep. Yeah, so that's the default file there. We can just replace all the content with what we just copied. Yep, and click save.
Oh, save.
Good. And so now we do have the information we needed. Next thing is we need to go actually and probably run the script. So
do I need to open this as administrator, because I don't think I did?
I checked. I think you're already in the ISE, in the PowerShell ISE. You're already an admin. I look up in the title of the window. It looks like you're an administrator if you look at it.
Oh yeah, I must have done it then.
Yes,
Yeah.
you did it. Right. Absolutely. So what you need to run there is if you go back to documentation one more time in the browser inside your Jumpbox,
Yes.
there. So the good thing is also give us an example how to run that file. So if you just scroll one line there, yep, there you go. So we can just copy that file, which bypass the execution policy for PowerShell, and also we have to specify the location for the configuration file in this case.
Yeah, which I think if I am right here, so this should be /, and then the JSON file is also right here.
Correct, 100%.
Right. So this both.
Yes, backward slash. You're good. I can tell you're very Linux person. All right. Run operations onboard file path. Yep, that looks right. So you can run that.
Ready to run it?
I'm ready. If you're ready. Say yes to all. So you can see the first thing it's doing, it's installing Azure CLI, because actually we'll be using that. And it typically like takes, if it has everything, it takes probably like probably 10 minutes, as maybe less a little bit. But at least once you have everything you need, like the CLI and also authenticating to Azure, it would take probably around, like, I would say 5 to 10 minutes to run the whole thing.
And I'm not yet authenticated, so it will prompt me for that, right?
By default, it will prompt through the device login. Yes, It will give you like a URL, you copy, and you copy the code, and you authenticate with your account that has access to the subscription. Yep, that's how it does it by default.
Got it. And I just
kind of give you an error there, and the error there just, I think, ask you to authenticate. So as you can see, we can have that login URL, and also we have the code that we need to authenticate with. So now you authenticate with your account that has access to that subscription technically. I think in your case would be like your Microsoft account.
Yes, and this is where I think, Husam, I mentioned that it gets tricky, because it's not only I have to switch the tenant as well as the subscription. So we can try. I think I had to do it manually before, but we could try. We paused the video and we changed our strategy a little bit. So the way we got around the authentication issue was we created a point-to-site VPN connection. So again, remember, this is a hybrid cloud architecture with hub and spoke architecture. We have the AVS here. So what we did was we created a point-to-site connection, and then we were able to access the vCenter using this flow. So from the P2S VPN over the express route to this vCenter. And remember that if you do that, you do have to enable, you do need that route server with the branch to branch toggle enabled. Okay, so that was the workaround. In the real world, you probably don't need to do that. You would just access your vCenter and enable Arc right from that jump box that you have in Azure. The reason we ran into that issue, and Husam, you can add more light as well, but my understanding is that our tenant for AVS was different for the tenant for where our jump box was. And you can add more light because that was the, I believe, the hardest part of this whole deployment.
Yeah, 100% Nihali. I think part of that is because we are using our Microsoft accounts and we have restrictions as part of the new like Mission Secure and the SFI initiative. We're like, requiring Microsoft accounts to authenticate from a machine that is joined to our like tenant. And in this case, the AVS is an even different tenant and not in our like Microsoft tenant. And that's part of the reason that it's not allowing us. I think conditional policy might be kicking there that is preventing us from doing the authentication from there. Yeah, if it's, of course, security has its own benefits. Of course, sometimes it makes things more strict, and that's part of the side effects of that. But, overall, you're, smart, very smart enough to figure out this workaround, which I really liked. To make it work, and it's still secure, by the way, and also can be done because you also prove that there's a point-to-site connectivity there can do a lot of things that people sometimes just overlook the power of this. So this is amazing.
Yeah, I can't take the full credit for it. I think it was all the brainstorming work that we did together, Husam. Really appreciate your time and really enjoyed working with you throughout that process. And I did just remembered that we had fun adding the hosts file, right? So
Yes.
you could set it up properly with the proper DNS, but important call out over here is that your vCenter FQDNs and your NSX Manager FQDNs need to be resolved from over here. As a temporary fix, we did end up adding host file, but you want to use proper DNS design. And so yeah, so let's now continue with the deployment. So we'll pick that up where we left off. Just to get around the subscription and the tenant issue and the security policies that we have on the Microsoft tenant, what we just did is we have created a VPN, a site, a point-to-site VPN over here. And we are now accessing the vCenter right from my laptop. So I have a point-to-site VPN connected and I can reach the vCenter IPs. Now we have to figure out, now we have to get that script again on my laptop. In other words, I go here, I download everything. So we want to do all of that from my laptop, right?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and kick off the script right over here. The script looks right? Let me just show you my subscription ID. And so let's go ahead and kick off this script. And while the script is running, we'll just show you a couple of other sanity checks that we did. We did make sure that we can hit the vCenter from my laptop and I can route to the 10.100.02 network now. So let's see how the authentication works. Now let's see, fingers crossed. Oh,
Cool.
so we tried this in VS Code first, and as you can see in the background, we got this error. So we decided to use PowerShell in administrator mode directly, and now we got past the permission error. Now I'm going to log in, and I will open this on another screen so I can enter the code. So I got the same error over here, Husam. So if we want to try it again with the tenant ID, we can try that. So we'll Control C out of it.
You try to log in with the code and it's not working?
Yeah, I tried to log in with the code and it's not working. So we could try this one with the specific tenant ID.
Yeah, let's try that.
So now it's looking a little bit better. So the first one was for my tenant, and then because we have to switch tenants, I think this method is prompting me. Awesome. So we are past that error. Let's see.
Woohoo!
Yay. So good. So it looks like this is, at least we're authenticated, and we should run that again in the, we want to run it in that PowerShell window, right? Not in VS Code, just to avoid any other.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
continue where we are here.
So this is the moment of truth that it actually likes the login that we already did. So at what point do we see that it is logging in? I think it's pretty verbose. So
At this point, like pretty much.
So while we wait, let's look at, just to, I mentioned this before, but the way it is working right now is we are going over the point to site tunnel. We're hitting the VPN gateway, and we are then routed to the AVS networks. Okay, so that's how it's working with that command that we showed you. And Husam, looks like it failed. I do remember seeing this orchestrator errors now. Yeah, data collector and orchestrator errors. I'll put this in the chat just so we have it.
That's new. I'm not sure why it's not. Appliance credentials. Do you want to keep that appliance credentials section in the configuration and keep it empty, like blank? So we can keep that, do that, if that is.
Yeah, wouldn't it be the credentials for vCenter?
No, this is the appliance credentials.
Appliance, yeah. I did I did have it in my original configuration.
So maybe just add that section back. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you can probably keep it empty like Nihali, just
just add the section. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So if you go to the example, like on the page, on the website, on the documentation, we should copy it.
We should be able to copy it from there. Yep. So just.
Yeah. So yeah, let's copy from this one. Yep. Thank you.
So here, we'll just do this.
That looks good.
Yeah. So comma, and then no errors, and then we go back and run it again. Sorry?
Did you save
it? Yeah, I have autosave on, and you can see there is no tick.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would think of. I mean, let's try again and see. Yep.
Went past that one. Yeah, looks. Yeah, so we are past that issue, right?
That's what it looks
cloud,
like.
Yeah, cloud details retrieved. Yeah, we are past this. Okay, good. So just to recap, after this error, we updated the config.json over here and just added this segment. Okay, so that's what we've done, and we reran the script. Looks like it has progressed a little bit further.
Yeah, you can see actually there it created the segment because we have removed all of them before.
Nice. So we can actually go in the NSX manager. And Victor is, if he's not awake, he will be awake now.
Yes.
Rang.
Hi, Victor.
Hello.
See, so Victor, you can see the segments now. Oh, there we have, we got two.
One is
Interesting.
connected to T1 and one is not. Is that a
What's that?
valid? Yeah.
One of them is connected, the other one is not.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a failed attempt.
Was it maybe from a previous attempt, like from not from today, like from previous time?
It's possible, but I think we deleted both of them, right?
Well, the one you see in the Azure portal, the one that's connected, you don't see the disconnected one from the Azure portal.
So I'm thinking about this. So right now it's deploying a virtual machine inside of AVS for Arc, right? And what is the script doing on that virtual machine?
Building the cluster that will be like in the VM.
Because I'm wondering if it's going to be able to reach that because of DNS. Like, Hali, can you go to the vSphere environment real quick?
Sure.
Go to the vCenter and go to the host and clusters view.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, expand that. We should see a virtual machine being created.
It's not yet. So what it's doing right now, it is downloading a template. So what it does, it downloads a template and then deploy that template for the appliance that will be deployed here.
Yeah. My question is, like, once it deploys that template, it uploads the OVA. The OVA gets fired up. The script needs to talk to that virtual machine to do configuration of some kind, right? How is it going to reach that virtual machine without DNS resolution?
I think it just uses IP addresses. It doesn't even use.
Okay, so yeah, if it's IP address, then it should be fine.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there's any resolvable names to be figured out.
And you can see that it's deploying something over here, right?
No, that was the previous job that you and I did. Yeah. That's part of the other video.
The upload. Oh, okay.
No, this is I think live right now. It is like as we're speaking right now. No.
No. Nehali and I, we are creating a content library and we uploaded Windows files into that content library. So that's what you're seeing. This is an ISO image being uploaded to the vCenter.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
So Husam, to your point earlier, I think that so which one is the right one, I guess?
The one that says not connected. That one, I think it should be removed, but I don't think, let's not touch anything right now.
Yeah, okay.
I agree.
And let's just wait.
Husam, it's possible. I think what we deleted were a couple segments that I had created before, but it's possible I may have created a not connected segment as part of my original. Yeah, I should have come back and double checked, but we'll see. But it's not at play as far as I can tell, although it's misleading to see it have the same IP range.
Yes, I mean, I was just thinking about that. I mean, how?
Yeah. No, it's possible this is me totally, because I had tried a few different things.
Yep.
But so far it's looking very good. So thank you. And now it's retrieving DNS data. There you have it, Victor.
One thing that I'm wondering is, like, if we can fix a DNS issue by going into your point-to-point configuration and adding the proper DNS server.
We could. Yeah, we could. Yeah.
See, Husam, everything can be fixed with networking, man. Everything. It is a DNS because like we just fixed the vCenter by doing the host file.
But I was wondering, in the host file, did you add an entry for vCenter and NSX or just vCenter?
Yes,
Both.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Because otherwise it won't work.
I just want to say that I love nerding out with you guys.
Totally, yes. On and on a Friday afternoon, right? So
this is the best part.
yeah, so we can leave this running anyway. Husam, you have to drop, so you'll get a few minutes before your
Yes.
next call. So it looks like, Victor, it got past the DNS.
And it was looking for an ARC folder inside of vCenter, and it wasn't created, so it created it.
Okay, that's good. And Arc segment. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so we need to delete one.
Delete one. Maybe I should just delete both and let it create both. What do you think?
Sure.
So that was totally me. Because we would have caught it if I was looking at the NSX portal. Because the good thing about this script is that it does, if something doesn't exist, it creates it. Yeah, so we can let it go ahead and just kick it off again. So we paused the recording, and as you can see that things did progress. So I'll just scroll through the screen so we can actually see what all gets provisioned. And Husam, if there are any sections or any points that you want to highlight as what's happening over here, feel free to ask me to pause.
So basically, what it does here in a nutshell, it, authenticate with Azure, and it kind of access the resources in the information we provided in the configuration file. Remember, like we provide the subscription ID, the source group, the AVS resource name, and it gets credentials so it can actually authenticate with vCenter. And keep in mind that this VM we are running this script from has line of sight to AVS environment. And what it does, it will actually deploy, it will install a template first on that environment, like a VMware template. And that's for a VM that will be also deployed. It's an OVA format that will be deployed to vCenter, which will represent the Azure Arc resource bridge, which is basically a Kubernetes cluster running there, allowing the Arc enablement to happen. And like everything going forward, to interact with the vCenter control plane to Azure control plane will be through that Azure Arc resource bridge. And that's why it's called like, a bridge, right? Because kind of making those environments, both of them connect to each other. The only kind of note I would add also on the side, that as everything in the IT industry, this kind of resource bridge VM will eventually have updates. Right. So in the future, just kind of reminder for everyone there that they might be need to come and rerun the same script. It actually go and detect this existing one. It will go and update it. So it's not like it's going to start rewriting everything from scratch. It will detect, oh, there's an existing resource bridge. Let me go and update it to a newer version. So I would say we need to kind of keep an eye on the, for like clients deploying this, on the versions of that resource bridge and what's kind of the new releases are. And when there's a new release, they just need to go and update it so they get the latest features. And then there's anything that we can enhance from a functionality perspective, that also they can get the latest and greatest. So that's the only thing I want to add from this side, Nihali. Other than that, we can just go and take a look and see what's actually happened in the reality, like from an Azure portal perspective, from vCenter perspective. I would say let's go and take a look.
Sure. Thanks, Husam. Yeah, so let's make some observations. So we'll start with vCenter, and then you want to start on the vCenter side. Okay, so
Yeah,
here
makes
we are,
sense.
and you can, this is the Arc folder that got created. This is the appliance that got created.
You can actually see there, like under the Arc folder, so this was all created by the script that we ran. Even the Arc folder that we see up there, this is the template for the appliance. And you can see there is like a version number next to it, 0.139. So this is the version as of today. In the future, we will probably have a newer version. So that's what I was talking about earlier about, we need to make sure we keep this, appliance up to date. And then, as you can see, there's a running VM that has like a long GUID name there, starting with 829. That's the actual resource bridge. So if this has to be running all the time, we need to make sure this is not turned off or anything, because it's not going to affect anything from production perspective at all, but it will affect our ability to talk with the vCenter environment from Azure. So if we're doing anything from the Azure APIs through the Arc integration, it will not work if this VM is turned off. But the good news, even if it's turned off for the worst cases, it will not affect any functionality for any environment.
Awesome. And I did notice my eyes landed on the IPs that even though at the beginning we showed you there was no DHCP server, it did get 2 static IPs from the segment that we had provided.
That is correct. Yeah, that's
Actually,
why we
no, it's
even more.
Yeah.
Yes. You probably see some of the
IPv6
yeah.
IPs. Maybe the network segment, Arc segment, automatically got created.
Yes.
Anything else, Victor, you want to see here before we go and make observations on the Azure portal SDDC side?
I think we're good. I mean, this network was created through the NSX API. So
yes, to the script, but
correct.
yes. So and so let me, Husam, I'll jump in the portal next. I'll show you the SDDC, and then you can walk us through what got created. Maybe we start at the resource group if you want, and you can make observations about the different resources that got created.
Yeah, that sounds a good plan. So for the concept of like Arc enabling, like let's say we call it like a custom site there in this terminology there. This is kind of anywhere that's outside of Azure, right? It's a custom site, especially when you Arc enable like environment like VMware, vCenter, or like you enable like System Center Virtual Machine Manager. Those will be considered as custom locations, and that's the first thing that will be created when you Arc enable those environments. So that's why we see that first resource under the AVS resource called Inhaled SDDC custom location. And then this is just more of like a representation to it. So we can like have more like information about it inside. Nothing much you can configure from there, honestly. It's just like more of like viewing the resources under that location. And then resource bridge, this is kind of also the representation of that appliance that we deployed. Again, nothing much that we can configure from here. It's just more of like, viewing that resource in Azure. It's just more of representation again of that VM. And then what's more interesting in the last thing is also vCenter. That is a representation one-to-one to the vCenter that we have Arc-enabled with the last operation we run. So from here, we can start, as you're pointing with your mouse there, to vCenter inventory, like virtual machines, resource pools, templates, networks, data stores. So all this is now, at least at this moment, without doing anything, is readable from the Azure APIs. So we can see here, you can see all the virtual machines, the virtual machine that maybe you have migrated or from on-premises, or the virtual machine that actually gets deployed, part of AVS. You can see even there like the ones under the management resource pool. If you look at the resource pool on the right side, there's the MGMT ones. These are the ones that are created part of creating AVS. Yes, and then here, this is again the resource pools. As you can see, the networks is there. This is for now, we're just doing read only. We're not doing anything. And you might be curious, like why all of them kind of looks like just read only, like how we can interact them within the Azure side of the house. I mean, that would be our next step, is to go and Azure enable them. So there's two steps when we talk about these resources. One, we want to make sure we like enable them in Azure. That's just basically allow us to interact with those VMs from the outside layer of the VM, like basically being able to perform a CRUD operations on the VM. So to do that, we have to enable them in Azure. And that's not basically Arc enablement. This is just like Azure enablement on those resources. And then the other thing we can do is we can enable guest management. This is kind of the next step. That means when you enable guest management, if you look at the top Nihali where it says like, in that kind of ribbon bar, add, refresh, yep, you can basically do this kind of operation. As you can see, it's grayed out, right? Because everything has to be enabled in Azure first before you can do anything on it, right? But the enabled guest management is the one that deploys the Arc management agent on those VMs, technically.
Excellent. Thanks, Husam. So Husam, remind me again, you had mentioned earlier in the session that there is a list of supported OSs. I'm trying to find that documentation. Maybe we could link it in the description below. But this is Windows 2025. This is Ubuntu. It did discover Photon, so we can leave it for now. But if there is a link, we can share it here as well.
Yes, this is basically the link of outside of just this context of Arc enabling AVS, is a link of like what OSs we can Arc enable them in general, like as an Arc enabled server. And I think this is in our documentation. If you look into the Arc enablement for server, then we can find the supported OSs there. Mainly like all Microsoft Windows is supported, like Windows Server is supported. And plus, a lot of the Linux distros, Ubuntu is definitely there. We can go granular sometimes on, what distribution it's kind of supported, what versions. What is sometimes interesting on those Linux VMs specifically, that sometimes we need to install some package managers before we Arc enable them. And that's something that like you have to be on the VM to install them, or you have to kind of have local access to the VM to install them remotely if you want it before you Arc enable them. Because the way that the Arc agent is deployed, it's not actually downloaded from like an executable, for example. It's basically on the Linux VM specifically, they are downloaded from the package managers, and each of the distro uses, like, as you know, different package management, and that sometimes we need to be configured on the VM as a prereq before we Arc enable it. So this is going to be the caveat about the Linux. Windows usually works very straightforward, but I mean, also I recommend if you have whatever, like Windows VMs as a strategy of wave enabling them, you probably know that these Windows VMs have a shared local credentials, username and passwords, and that's how you kind of group them and enable them. Because when you Arc enable them, you need to provide kind of local admin credentials for these VMs so they can install the agent. And if you are doing them in batches, they all have to have a common, credentials. If not, it will not work. It will work on the one that matches, and it will not work on the one that doesn't match. So that's how we do. If you want to enable a group of those VMs.
Yeah. So what I thought I would do, I was just looking at this. I wanted to make sure that our VM was healthy and that it had the IP. So I just want to make sure that it was in the right segment. Oh yeah, so for some reason it was only showing IPv6 IP
summary maybe.
Oh yeah,
summary will show us the
so it does have yeah, okay, good. So sure, so let's go ahead and
before we proceed, Nihali, maybe if I take you one more step back, can we go back to the AVS instance itself, because I want to show there how also the AVS instance showing that Arc is enabled on them.
Sure, yeah, so we can do that. So Nihali.
And under there, if you go under add-ons, under manage add-ons, or you can, there's multiple ways to go to there, but that's one way. Now you can see this is configured. I think before we have shown that this was saying not configured, or like the configure was showing like as grayed out. Now it says configured, connected, and we have everything working. And also the vCenter inventory, if you look at the left side again, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the same thing we saw from there, the virtual machines, the resource pools, the templates, networks, data stores.
Awesome. How about there was a place where we were seeing vCenter. No, there was some Arc.
Yep.
Yeah, vCenters. I thought I would see the vCenter over here, but I couldn't see it.
Or maybe I would say this might be filtering in a way that's for the on-premises vCenter, because one thing we didn't talk about that you can, Arc-enable AVS that is running in Azure. You can also Arc-enable vSphere on premises too. So yes, it's a different script. It's a different kind of onboarding, wizard, but it is possible too. So maybe the one you're looking at here is specific to show the on-premises side of the house.
Okay.
Yep, maybe that's why it's not showing here. So probably have to play around it, but that's the only reason I would think of it. But yes, so Azure or AVS or Arc-enabled AVS is kind of an instance of or kind of a fork from the Arc-enabled vSphere, which Arc-enabled vSphere can work anywhere in Azure, even if you're running like, VMware and even in like another cloud provider, it can also do that. It's just, as you say, like a source bridge, deploy it. It's as long as it's running, you can connect to the control plane.
Perfect. And here, like if this SDDC wasn't deployed in the right region, you wouldn't even get to this option. I think we recorded that at the beginning, but just wanted to call that out. That be sure that it's in a supported region.
Correct. Yeah. So you need to check the Arc side of the house for the Arc-enabled vSphere, which regions it supports, because I don't think we currently have all regions supported. The number of regions supported expanded substantially. I think we have a lot of them, but sometimes you might run into some regions that still don't have it. No, just one thing before we Arc-enable the VMs, I just want to explain as well, is people sometimes ask me very common deals like, okay, we have Arc-enabled AVS, but I cannot, like, how do I create a VM from here? Like, is that even possible? I don't want to probably do it right now. We can just do it later if you want it, but I want to make sure that to be able to do that, you need to Azure enable the resources. So we will do that right now for the VM, but also if you look under resource pools, Nihali, for a second, if you click under that, for the resource pool, or at least the cluster or whatever where you're going to put those VMs, you have to be enabled in Azure, which is that checkbox in the top. Yep. So this is if you want to Azure enable the cluster, this is how you do it. Same thing, you need to have a template. So right now we don't have a template. We only have the appliance template, which is just for the resource bridge. But if you don't want to have like a Windows Server template or like a Ubuntu template, that's where we can enable them and then use them for creating a new VM. And the same thing for the networking. You probably you need to have like a segment in an NSX that you will be using to create the VM in. And the same thing also for data store. There are data stores showing the vSAN by default, but if you also have other options like, again, you still have to Arc-enable this or enable in Azure first. But if you have other data stores like Azure NetApp Files or Elastic SAN or Pure, those can also be used as a location to host your VMs as well.
I see. I didn't realize. So you're saying maybe if we have time, we can do a demo. But you're saying you can add a virtual machine from this experience.
So let's say you provide like the resource group there, like let's find and give it like a random name, I don't know, ABC. And then you can see there, it's going to automatically assign the custom location that we're going to be using, and the virtual machine kind will be AVS. But you can see there's no resource pool, and there is no data store option if you go there as well available. There's no template, and the reason that we don't see anything there is they are not enabled in Azure, and that's the thing I was just talking about before.
Got it. And
Yep.
so same thing will happen on the the
Networks.
network and other
Yes.
sites. Okay, got it. So
yes, and even yes, exactly. So this is how it kind of if you ever like run into this situation, just because you have to enable them in Azure first, it's just like basically enable them in Azure. Just give it like kind of a stamp on the resource from the Azure side, like yes, I'm allowed to go and use that resource in Azure. And if you think about it from like granular access perspective, you might don't want people to use some resources from the Arc-enablement, so you don't actually enable them in Azure. And sometimes you want to enable some of those resources. So that's you can basically pick and choose which ones you want to use through this integration as well. So this is kind of one thing to keep in mind. And again, the last thing I want to say on this here is now you can see you can create the virtual machine from the Azure portal through this Arc integration. But what's also exciting is you can have the same deployment from like a Bicep template or ARM template or even Terraform template that you can specify all this information and run those templates. So you can even have like a CI/CD pipelines that will deploy VMs to AVS through this Arc integration. So this is kind of one of the benefits, again, if you want to think about the benefits of Arc enabling AVS, that you can control the environment from like Azure portals or Azure APIs and so forth.
Awesome. Great insights, Husam. I'm learning a lot myself here. I'll pause just a little bit before we kick off the enable in Azure. Victor, Kevin, any other questions before we kick this off?
No, great stuff. Thank you, Husam.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you have any question or this doesn't make sense, yeah, please feel free, because I would love to.
No, I think you were on a roll. It's exciting to see all of these VMs show up over here for sure.
Absolutely.
So ready for the showtime?
I would say, Nihal, let's not do the Ubuntu for now. Let's just stick with the Windows, so we can just keep it simple, because I'm sure it's a different experience for Linux and Windows. So let's start with the Windows. So yes, click Enable in Azure. And you still have to choose your resource group, which is Nihali, I believe.
Is it required to put it in the same resource group where the SDDC is? That's what I would do.
Yes, I would put unless you have a different plan from like access perspective. Maybe you don't want to you want to like other teams to access this VM. So you put a different resource group, you give that team access on that resource group, maybe as contributors and, or readers or whatever. And they don't have to have the same access to the AVS resource itself. And again, this is the game of, dividing and conquering, so you can manage your permissions on resources. But from a demo perspective, it doesn't matter. I would just keep it in the same resource pool, source group, sorry. And you're clicking on something, I'll just explain again about that, is you have the option to enable it in Azure and stop there. And you have the option to enable it in Azure. And also, as you check that box that says enable guest management, again, that will install the Azure agent on the VM. So this will do some deployment as well.
Some quick question. So how is it doing this? Is it doing it through the VMware tools?
It's technically on VMware tools on the VM, you mean, Victor, right?
Yeah, because I'm wondering how's it passing those credentials if it's not connected right now to the virtual machine. And I know VMware passes those commands to the VMware tool, so I'm wondering if it's doing something similar in the backend.
So I'm not quite 100% sure, I want to be honest with you, but I'm sure that this all interaction is going through the resource bridge that is deployed on the AVS environment. Now, how the resource bridge talks to the VM, is it through the VMware tools? I mean, I think pretty much probably yes, but I just have to confirm that. It's been a while since I've done that myself, honestly.
Yeah, I'll play with it. I'll deploy a virtual machine without VMware tools and see what's the behavior.
Yeah, it might just not let you, or it will let you, depending exactly like what as your question was. if it will depend on VMware tools or not on the VM. And for people not familiar with VMware tools, this is an agent that runs on the VM to allow the vCenter, to communicate back with the VM and give it extended functionality on the VM.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, good stuff. So here, Husam, maybe in the future video, we'll do more about private endpoint and other options, but maybe you can talk through just the default option and where is this connectivity from where to where.
Yes, that makes sense, Nihali. So for today, we probably will go with the happy path. Let's call it.
Yeah.
So this is basically, so for the VM eventually to be reporting back to Azure, right? So it has to talk to some endpoints that are, Azure endpoints for the Arc integration. Now, this is going to be outbound, mainly not inbound, but for now, because we have internet access enabled on AVS for outbound, and those VMs lives in AVS, they will have access to the internet, so we don't have issues with any public endpoint integration there. So that's why we need this connectivity. Now, the good news, we also have private endpoint option. We can probably explore that in part 2 if you want it. And that is allow us to communicate with the Azure endpoints without have to traverse through the internet. And that's the good thing with Arc-enabling the VMs today, that this is not a required, internet connectivity is not a required, prerequisite for that. I mean, it can be, as we are doing today, but maybe it's more secure to use the private endpoint because it will just keep all the communication locally within the Azure environment and within the endpoints.
Yeah, and we'll cover that at some point in the future videos.
Yeah, so I would love to. Yeah. So as you're just doing there, you're providing your credentials that are basically the local credentials on the VMs for like an admin. So you have it Nihali, the password there, and then the same thing when you do like Linux as well. You provide the username and the password. So you at some point you have to have some credentials. And also if you're people like saying, oh, do I have to do it from the Azure portal all the time? No, you can even do it from CLI. You can do it from other mechanisms to enable in Azure, but the portal just easier to visualize it here. So if you're wondering, can I automate that? Yes, you can.
Awesome. Yeah, great insights here. So should I go ahead and hit enable?
Yes. Yeah, so this will do a deployment. So the the Azure enablement itself is a resource that will be deployed. And we have an issue there. Let's see.
Put this error in the chat as well, just so you guys have it.
I didn't like the VM name, it sounds like.
Oh. I blame Victor for the naming.
Say the resource name Windows 2025 or part of that name is a trademark, marked, or reserved word.
Oh, can we go and rename it on here, this side?
Yeah, we can. I hope it's not looking at the name on vCenter, because if we rename it here, it's not going to change the files on vCenter, but we can change it. Just put Win. Just put Win 2025.
Okay.
Just call it yeah.
Do we have to rerun something, refresh something?
No. That's it. Then we.
But here, if I refresh it, does it pick it up? No, it just still shows.
It will probably give it few seconds there because it will have to go and read the changes and come back. It should be live. So because even if you create a new VM, the new VM should also show up here automatically, right?
I see. And how much is the delay? You said it takes a little bit to show up.
It does, it keeps kind of a pulse pull from there. So I'm assuming it's going to happen within a few seconds. But
yeah, so while we are waiting, maybe I'll just create a new segment as well. So we'll just do a new segment here, just to kind of go with the same naming, just to show that we can create a segment. And let's see, let's refresh this. Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll pause the video here. But So we renamed the VM to Win 2025, but now we do see that the Win 2025 VM is over here. It does take some time, right, Husam, for it to show up over here. Let me go ahead and enable it while you talk about that.
Yeah, so it takes probably like from few minutes, maybe to 10 minutes, I would say. But there's also a way to force that sync if you don't want to like just wait for it. It's using the CLI command AZ Arc appliance. I think there's a parameter to that you can just force it to sync, and that will kind of make it immediate if you don't want to wait for a couple of minutes. But if you want to wait for a couple of minutes, you'll be fine to reflect the environment. What you see here is just basically projection from what's in the vCenter. So if you create a VM there, it will show up here, but we are just talking about the time it takes for that projection to happen. Like, would it take like a 1 second, or it take like a couple minutes? I think it probably will take a couple minutes until that happens, and you don't have to do anything pretty much. But if you're in a rush, again, you can run that command to force it to sync. Yep.
Yeah, so we enabled the VM again, and now I think we are past the naming issue. So you could see the progress on the, it looks like we are beyond that issue now, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and now we wait again.
Yeah, if you look at the deployments, actually, there was 2 running deployments in parallel. One was just Azure enabling the resource, and the other one is installing the guest management, agent on the VM. So the one you're looking at right now there is just enabling the guest management.
Yep. Awesome. So it looks like this failed.
Okay, this is the guest management on the Windows.
Yes, this is the guest management. Let me grab the error.
At least one deployment.
I'll put the error in the chat.
Yeah, the credential is not what it's expecting.
Uh-oh. Did I typo it?
Possible, yeah.
Okay,
was it like Nihali, the admin, or was it like administrator or something?
You are absolutely right. So I think what we can do is, I was used to Azure prompting me for my own username, so I think we could quickly correct that. So we'll enable this Win 25 VM again.
It's already enabled. We have to. I think the Azure enablement is working. What failed was the Arc agent. Yes.
Yeah. So the reason it failed is I mistakenly had the wrong username. And thank you, Husam, for bringing it to my attention. Okay, so we'll give it a go. So it's nice that it actually separates those 2 out. So we just have to wait on that one. And so while we wait, Husam, let's go ahead and kick off the Ubuntu one. I'm running, I believe it's the latest one. We can quickly double check. I forget which one I got. I should have it in my not sure if it's supported, but
yeah, 24.04.3.
It's there. Okay, perfect. So why don't we go ahead and kick off the enablement and then see what happens. I know you mentioned that I may need a few more things, so at least we can get to that point.
Sure.
And enable guest management, we'll leave it at public, and then the credential.
Yep. And if this was working, we can also show the list of supported OSs. I think I put that link in the chat.
Oh, nice.
So we can just go over that quickly, just for people to have an idea. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yes, okay.
So here's the whole matrix of the supported OSs. Yep.
Thank you, Husam. And Windows, So we have 2025. Okay, awesome. So, but we still need something to be deployed for the Linux one to work, is what you're saying. So let's see
So
how.
let's keep an eye
Yeah.
on the existing deployment. I think, in some distros, you have to install certain like package management,
Mhm.
and it will kind of complain about that. But let's see on this one. Maybe we get lucky. I don't know.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll pause the video again over here for both of these to complete, and we'll come back.
Yep. I mean, in the happy path word, it will be right now deploying the Azure Arc guest management agent on the VM, and that will eventually make it connectable to the Azure control plane.
And
Yeah.
while we wait, let's see how our Linux one is progressing. That one failed as well. So I'll copy the error.
Let's see what the error there.
Yep. Agent installation requires passwordless sudo for script execution. And I think I may have to add this command that it's saying. So
Yes,
I
think
could do
that's what I
that.
was
Yeah, it says
thinking.
add using the vi sudo command add. Okay, so we could do that while we wait for the other one to finish. So let me go on the VM, and it's been a while since I did this kind of trickery. And so we have to add this somewhere. Oops. Oh, it's a nano. Oh, I thought it was VI.
You're the Linux expert. Let you do that.
Yeah, I mean it should have been when I say vi sudo, it should do vi, but for some reason it did.
Maybe you can like SSH into the VM from somewhere else.
Yes, Husam. I should be able to because I'm VPN'd in. Good call. Let's see.
Yeah, this is much readable.
Okay. Okay, so let me see now if I can just paste. Okay, perfect. Control X, save, yes. Save, okay. So we fixed the vi sudo and we added this line. So let's go ahead and kick off the guest. We only need to do the guest management now, right?
Yeah. Yes. And also, if you want to like show Nihali, we can talk about like the basic operations that are available without installing even the agent. I don't know if you want to show that or talk about that.
Sure, let's do that.
Okay. All right. So I know we had some issues with enabling the guest management or installing the Arc agent, but even without that, we still, through the Arc integration with AVS, we can still perform CRUD operations, which means create, read, update, and delete operations on the VM itself from the Azure APIs, from the Azure portal in this case. So Nihali, if you do me a favor, you can click on that Windows or the Linux VM. I can show you some of these examples and what you can perform on those VMs. Again, without having them Arc-enabled yet. We will Arc-enable them eventually, but let's say without Arc-enabling them, you can, at least from here, see like some metadata information about the VM, like the VM name, CPU cores, memory, and that's in the middle of the screen, as you can see there. You can see like the IP address under networking, all that good stuff, like the disks, the size, and so forth. Now, what you can do from the, yeah.
So they became hyperlinked now, and I see. So now you can actually go in there. I see. Yep.
Yeah. So exactly. See, the projection is becoming more interactive. It's not just like read only. Now you can actually even do more things. If you look also at the ribbon in the top, you can stop the VM. You can delete the VM. So you can restore the VM if you want, and then you can also start the VM if it's already stopped. Again, depending on the status of the VM. But what's also kind of nice from here, if you look under, let's say, the size again, This is not an Azure VM, so this is not like, oh, I want to choose my D size VM or E size VM or F size VM. This is, again, VMware VM, so you can change here the number of cores assigned to it and the number of memory assigned to it. So if you want to just double the number of CPU cores, you can just say from 2 to 4, and now this VM will have 4 CPU cores, for example. You can click Save, and again, this is part of the update operations on that VM. So again, all of this is available. Yes, all of this is available without have to install the Arc enablement agent on them.
So you had to power off the VM. So we could power it off from here as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you for showing me. So just to recap, Husam, what we just did was, even though the guest management failed, we were still able to do the CRUD operations, is what you showed us.
Exactly. Again, this is on the VM layer itself. Now, within the VM itself, that's where we have to go and basically enable the guest management. So if you go back to the same screen where we're at on some of the Linux or the Windows VM, Nihali, I'll show you one more thing.
Okay.
Yep. But I want to show that the other operations that we have under like operations at the button and like management, this requires the Arc agent to be on the VM, right? This is kind of the difference between not Arc-enabling the VMs and Arc-enabling the VMs. Yes. So click again on the Ubuntu VM on the top, and if you like expand under operations in the bottom, we can see the operations there. Click, for example, like updates. This is like using Azure update management. You cannot do it, as this message says, without having the Arc agent installed.
I see. So on the Windows VM, we should be able to see it because we have it installed.
Yes, if you go there, let's see, and click on updates.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can configure, now it's not configured yet, but you can configure this, and we are able to configure that because we already have the Arc enabled. Also, if you click on under overview, Nihali, you will see that the guest management on the bottom there, you can see something under configurations. It says configured and connected.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looks like we this Windows VM fully is onboarded, right? And should we just for the completeness over here, should we just for the Linux one, we'll go ahead and do, now that we added that line in the VI sudoers, we could just do the enable guest management, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I do have the right username. And enable. So that's awesome. So we got at least our Windows one onboarded. Anything else while we wait for the guest OS over here to complete, anything else you want to show or call out?
Just for that command that you ran on the Linux VM to make sure people are like familiar with where to find it or where to read more about it, I put a link in the chat.
Sure.
It points to that kind of warning about this is in different contexts, of course, but again, it talks about installing the Arc agent, and what you see that in purple is what we did. It's saying if you're using a Linux VM, the account not prompt for login on sudo commands. To override the prompt from the terminal, run sudo vi sudo, as you did, Nihali, and you did add your account all equals all, no password, all at the end of the file to ensure you replace the username with your account. This was Nihali, and this is what you did on that file, and that's how we can hopefully get it working.
Yeah, good call out, and thanks for sharing that link. We'll put this in the link in the description below as well. Awesome. Looks like this one is still going. Husam, looks like our our Ubuntu VM is now completed. Should we kind of make some observations, the similar observations there as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we have the virtual machine networking. We'll just go to updates one more time and see the update should now show up as well.
I think you click on the inventory for some reason, but
okay,
good
show
now.
updates now. Okay, I think I
Yes.
moved my mouse too far. This is awesome, Husam. Thank you for showing us this. So it does look like networking. Let's see. Took a few seconds.
So I'll tell you why it's not picking the networking, because we haven't Azure enabled the network. So we have to Azure enable the network so it can read it from here as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I see. I see. So would that the same thing happen for disks
No,
and data
disks.
stores?
Yes, like data disk doesn't show which data store it's using as well. Yes.
I see. Okay.
But the size is not. The size is CPUs
Yeah,
and memory.
good
That's
that
fine.
we checked that. Yeah, so same thing will happen on the Windows VM then. I think what we did was we looked at the overview before, and we were able to see the IP, but yes, I see. So just to recap what for the benefit of our viewers, I think what Husam, what you're saying is that in the SDDC, we have to onboard, let's say, the workload segment for it to show up. Perfect. So, Osam, I was just going through my notes and something we referenced earlier in the video, and for completeness, maybe we show there was this whole in the requirements, if you remember, there was a section on, you talked about it briefly, about roles and permissions. Should we quickly check this in the portal? Is that something we could do?
So this is probably to demonstrate this, we need to have like various accounts and grant them granular like permissions over certain resources. And this way we can, for example, let someone be able to kind of provision VMs and not be able to like do something else, or just be able to read VMs and not do something else. I think this is what kind of the best way to demonstrate this is how we
This
can
is at
basically.
the, sorry, resource group. This is at the resource group level then?
Yes, could be like where you put your Arc-enabled resources, correct?
Okay. All right. Yeah, just wanted to tee up on that one. So, Hosam, it looks like we can pause here, and the rest of the configuration, we could do it in part 2. What all is remaining still?
So that's a great question, Nihali. I mean, we can maybe in part 2 of this show the other part of the integrations as after we Arc-enable the VMs, right? So things like integration with Update Manager, things like integration with Defender for cloud, which is, I think, you're probably going to be focusing on that in more depth in our next part. And other integrations, of course, that we have in Azure, like, guest policy management, and, there's a lot of things we can definitely go dive deeper on. Again, this is part of the Arc enablement agent on the VM itself, nothing specifically from AVS. But the AVS part, we already kind of touched on it, that you can run the CRUD operations on the VM today, so we don't have to worry about that. Maybe another example we can show next time is the private endpoint, if you want to like have time to enable that. For the Arc integrations for the VMs, that will just give people like, more secure way or confidence to really Arc enable the VMs without have to worry about traffic, traversing the internet.
Yeah, we could do Sentinel integration, perhaps.
Yeah.
So these are great call outs. Sam, this is awesome. This was quite a marathon. In other words, we went. It was great because we were able to incorporate the troubleshooting for the onboarding process. So thank you for helping us through that whole journey. And what I'll do is I'll keep the troubleshooting elements for the benefit of our viewers. And if time permits, Victor and I can do a clean recording in his SDDC. But I think this is really good, what we have so far. And we've captured a lot of the places where we could share our learnings with the viewers. Any thoughts, any closing thoughts from you, Husam? Really appreciate your time for sure.
No, of course, Nihal. So happy to contribute. Happy to that we kind of went through this, and yeah, all this kind of pitfalls is very common, especially if you do Arc enablement for the first time on AVS or on the VMs. So I believe the issues we had are really good lesson learned for like us first, and for everyone who's maybe watching this as well. Arc enabling, any resource is definitely a plus. And I should also mention that Arc-enabling AVS is free, or any Arc-enabling vSphere environment is free, doesn't cost anything at all. I don't know if we have talked about cost at all, but it doesn't cost anything. Arc-enabling the VMs as well is free, as long as you don't, start integrating with other Azure services. But once you start, adding more into that, like Defender and maybe Update Manager and other things, then use this some cost and Sentinel, like log analytics workspace. All this will add additional charges, but it's just like Arc enabling them with the basic functionality. It's all free. So this is the last thing I'm going to add. And again, the benefit of Arc enabling AVS and Arc enabling the VMs is extending the Azure control plane to those resources, so you can manage them pretty much from any Azure API. The portal is the common one, as we are doing this demonstration from the Azure portal, but keep in mind that you can do this integrations from like Azure CLI, PowerShell, Bicep and ARM templates, and even other like Terraform providers and so on. So this is kind of the very nice way that you can manage it all from a single pane of glass.
Awesome. Thanks, Husam. Thanks for sharing. Those are really great insights from the field. Really appreciate your time.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we do in the Art of the Possible series is, as much as we want crisp demos, we also bake in troubleshooting. And this was a unique scenario where, Husam, I'm glad you were with us to help us through the entire process. But I have summarized all the different things that we ran into in like one segment. So if you want to go through from the beginning, I know you helped us through this, the archive that we download, the AVS.
Yeah, sounds good, Nihal. So, I mean, this is general rule, like not just specific to this, but if you download like scripts from the internet that you want to run on your machines, so Windows by default kind of blocks some of that those executables that you get from the internet. So what you do in this case, you right click on the package that you download, the zip file, and you just go to the properties and you unblock it, as you can see in that screenshot, and then you click apply. And in this case with Arc enablement for AVS, there's a zip file that you had to download from GitHub to be able to run the onboarding script. And that's exactly what we did here. We downloaded the zip file, we did unblock it, and then we extracted it so we can get that PowerShell script from it. Yep.
Yeah, and this one we did a full segment on it, but very important that your authentication is sorted out, right?
Yes, of course. So in this case, the script itself, does device login authentication by default, but you can also override that by logging in before. And in this case, we had some issues, as Nihali pointed out. So we had to figure out like a workaround. This is restriction just because we are using our Microsoft accounts, and this is like a very highly secure environment. So there's a lot of additional conditional access configuration there that prevents us from running kind of the happy path. But we figured like a very smart workaround for that, so should be good.
And this is where I zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember that one. I think
Yeah, this is where we didn't, the terminal inside VS Code wasn't working. I think that was one of the
Yes.
errors. Yep.
Yes. So yeah, bad idea to use VS Code for this onboarding script at least. So I would run it from the PowerShell, terminal, like in the Windows or Windows Server. That's
And we
probably like.
tried, yeah, we tried ICE, and that wasn't working either, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I would stick with the terminal for this onboarding. I would even like if it's I mean we were able to figure it out, but you like use PowerShell 7, it's probably even better as a environment to run the script from. Yep.
Yeah, and that's where this is, the PowerShell. And then last but not least, I think there was an error, if you remember here,
Yeah, in the
Husam.
configuration file. Yep. So if you run the Arc onboarding like long time ago, you need to know that this has been updated recently. So this is the configuration that you have to provide. And you can see there the new section now, it's called appliance credentials. So even if you're not going to give a customized appliance credentials, at least you still have to have it as a placeholder there. So you can keep the username as like no value, password as no value, like put them in empty brackets, but empty quotes, but you still have to have it in the JSON file. If you don't, then you get the same error that Nihali was showing on the screen. And just this is kind of lesson learned for all of us is make sure you have that there, even if you're not planning to give custom credentials, because it is kind of expected section in the JSON file.
Yes, thanks, Husam.
Of course.
And then this was me when I was playing with it, Husam, before we decided to work with you. I had created an extra Arc segment, and it didn't like the duplicate one, so I had to delete and clean up. Didn't realize that it would create one for me, so there were two. So make sure that when you start, you are starting with nothing inside, because
Exactly.
the segment section here takes care of it, right?
Yeah, you don't need to create anything from a networking perspective. I think in the configuration file, you just give it a name, like you say it's Arc segment, for example, and then give it the networking address block. But that's it. It will go and provision
Create.
that segment for you and configure it and everything. So yeah, it's pretty much kind of autonomous at that point. We don't have to worry about this. Yep.
Yeah, so that was a quick recap of all the issues that we ran into, and then I shared before, once everything was successful. So for the completeness, after we resolved all of the issues, the clean deployment looks something like this. So this is the script that we ran, and this is when it said the operation was successful. So for demo 2, we will be jumping on this jump host over here, and we will validate that we have IP connectivity, DNS, and then we will follow the instruction from our official Azure documentation. So let's jump on this VM and run a few quick tests. So here I am on the Jumpbox. We'll start with IP config. We'll verify that we can look up the FQDNs for the vCenter and the NSX manager. We'll ping the vCenter. We'll ping the NSX manager. And we will ensure that we can hit Google, and we have outbound connectivity. And I have listed this command over here because we have two tenants. So in case you have to switch the tenant, you can use this -- tenant ID command. So let's take a quick look at the official Azure documentation that we will be following, and be sure to check out demo 1 for the deep dive. But what we will do is I've already downloaded this script from this location, which is right here. I have already downloaded it, and it's in my downloads folder in this folder right here. Okay, so it's already downloaded, and we did touch up the file, the AVS JSON file, which is over here, and I grabbed all of the information for my SDDC, the resource group. It will create a new Arc segment. So if you don't have one, it's okay. Just make sure that you're using an unused segment for deploying the Arc appliance. Okay, so again, I'll be following this instructions right over here. So what we will do is, now that we have the AVS config.json file ready, we'll follow the onboarding process, and we will grab this set execution policy right from here, and we will run this script. Okay. So here I am. As you can see, I'm doing a more on the config avs.json file, and then I'm running the set execution policy script to run the onboarding script. And then you'll see that the first time I did have to terminate the job. So first thing it does is it installs the AZ CLI. So AZ login is ready. However, given I have a different tenant, I did have to terminate it over here. And then I logged in using the special tenant ID. Okay, you may not have to do that, but if you do have a different tenant, you will need to run this AZ login with the -- tenant. And once I was authenticated, everything went very smoothly. If you have any issues, be sure to check out a demo one where we do deep dive troubleshooting with Husam. And here, for the completeness of the recording, you can see all the different stages of the onboarding. And you can see that the Arc appliance is getting deployed and successful. And there it is, all successful. So let's go into vCenter, and just to validate that the appliance is indeed deployed. So here we are in vCenter in the Arc folder, and you can see that you have the two appliances, and I only have one Photon VM deployed over here. And let's go to NSX, and in the NSX under segments, you can see that we do have the Arc segment deployed. Okay, and if you see the IPs for the Arc appliance, we got two IPs over here, 100.11 and 2, and it's from the same segment that we gave it over here, 10, 100, 100, and that's where the IPs are coming from. And last but not the least, let me show you what it looks like in the Azure portal. So here we are in the SDCC. If you go under add-ons, you will see that now we have the Arc configured over here. And you can see that you have the hyperlink to go to the Arc. Resource bridge is over here. And if we look at the resource group, we'll see a bunch of other resources, the resource bridge, the custom location also deployed over here. Okay, and if let's go look at the vCenter inventory, and here you will see the Photon VM, all the VMs that are discovered, and then we are ready to enable it in Azure. So from here on, you can follow the demo 1 sections of enabling it in Azure. So this ends our demo 2. If you do run into any issues, be sure to check out our troubleshooting section. I have listed all of the troubleshooting tips over here, the issues that we ran into, but we also have a special section on troubleshooting, and demo 1 has all of the troubleshooting baked in as well. So thank you again, Husam, for joining us. Thank you, Victor and Kevin. I know you guys had to drop a little bit early, but this was fun working with you, and we will look forward to, Husam, this part 2 of this with you.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Nihali.
Thank you.